Hi, my name is Matthew Stone. I'm a product manager and technical lead for Brocade Communications. In this video, I'll show you an example workflow we've created in StackStorm. This workflow enables users to set up a virtual fabric extension between two VCS fabrics. In order to connect multiple Layer 2 segments across a Layer 3 boundary, we need to tunnel the traffic across the Layer 3 portion of the network. On a VCS fabric, this can be accomplished by creating a virtual fabric extension. This uses VXLAN and maps VLANs to VNIs for transport across the Layer 3 portion of the network. Here's a view of the topology similar to what we'll be working with today. In this demo, we'll only be configuring VCS 1 and 3. In the demo, the Layer 3 domain is a single MLX, but it could consist of many devices and many possible routing paths. To configure VF extension, we need to set up several things. First, we need to create a loopback for the VTEP and a VLAN to map across the tunnel. We'll need to create these in each node for every participating VCS cluster. In this example, we're using OSPF to advertise the loopback addresses into the Layer 3 portion of the network, so we'll need to add the loopback address into Area 0. Once this configuration is done, we'll create the fabric connections using the overlay gateway and configure the VLANs whose traffic needs to be tunneled between the fabrics. As you can see, the principal nodes in each VCS contain no configuration for VF extensions. So let's start the workflow and see which actions it performs on the devices. Right away we can see that 4 subtasks have started. These tasks are run in parallel to speed up the process. If we drop down one of these items, we can see the individual actions being performed on the switch. Once the initial set of tasks is complete, the workflow knows to move on to the overlay gateway portion of the workflow. This is performed once per VCS fabric and can only be completed once every R-bridge participating in VF extension has been configured. The workflow is configured to start the overlay gateway task only after the previous tasks have been completed. Once all of this is done, we have a completely configured VF extension for VLAN 54. Let's dig into the workflows that make this possible. We'll begin with the main workflow that we ran, the VF extension workflow. This workflow tells StackStorm which additional workflows are needed and which tasks the workflow relies on. For instance, the join parameter in configure overlay gateway 1 says that all tasks that feed into configure overlay gateway 1 need to be completed successfully before attempting to execute that task. In this case, that is configure VTEP 1 and 2. Now let's look at one of the workflows referenced in this parent workflow, configure VTEP. This workflow is straightforward in that it completes each required configuration change one at a time, moving to the next one only if the previous command completes successfully. We create the VE interface, we add an IP address to it, we no-shut the VE interface, etc. This maps directly to how network engineers might configure a switch today, typing these commands one at a time into the CLI. What this allows a network engineer to do is capture their normal CLI workflow inside of StackStorm so it can be repeated time after time. It also allows you to trigger these configuration changes based on outside events. For instance, if a new virtual network is created that needs Layer 2 adjacency with a network across a Layer 3 boundary, you could subscribe to an API that informs you of that additional network, and StackStorm can auto-provision the network as soon as the virtual network is configured. Now that the workflow is complete, let's log back into the switch and see how the configuration changed. As you can see, the loopback interface, VE interface, and overlay gateway configurations are now placed in the device, and you can begin using the VF extension. Thank you for your time watching this video. I hope it shows you the simple but powerful way you can construct repeatable, consistent workflows leveraging StackStorm, and how workflow-first thinking can save you time and reduce errors.